Gothic art developed in France sometime about the mid 12th century, and it had an incredibly strong focus on architecture and sculpture. During this time, religious iconography continued to dominate in sculpture and paintings, and there was a particular focus on the Marian devotion. So, a lot of paintings, a lot of sculptures that would have featured Mary. We started to see a return to some of the more Greek and Roman ideals of painting, more relaxed figures, more flowing lines. There was definitely an increase in detail, um, but they kind of held on to that Byzantine idea of beautiful, shimmering gold, gilt backgrounds. So, if we take a look here at the Adoration of the Magi by Lorenzo Monaco, you can see the figures look much more grounded than we saw in some of the Byzantine work that we looked at earlier. The figures appear more rounded, their feet appear to be touching the ground. There is more of a sense of perspective, which we didn't have previously in the Byzantine and Romanesque movements. This is the Madonna and Child by Simone Martini. And again, we have a really beautiful gold shimmering background. We have a depiction again of Mary and the baby Jesus. Baby Jesus is still incredibly popular as an artistic icon. And here he is again, another baby Jesus. So again, Mary, this beautiful shimmering gold halo. But again, we're starting to have more of a natural figure reappear in our artistic style. I would also like to point out that it does look like baby Jesus kind of has a six-pack in this picture. He's quite tore up. Let's talk about Gothic sculpture. So, sculpture continues to be important again because we still don't have a literate populace. So, we have to tell stories that are important to us through sculptural storytelling. But we start to come back to those again, those ideas of Roman and Greek, and have more flowing figures or fabric, more realistic looking people. People don't look squashed or like crammed into little spaces. So again, you can see that here. Beautiful draped cloth. The idea of contrapposto is back. It can also be seen here, even though all these figures seem to have like their feet and their weight equally distributed. It feels much more natural. There isn't any weird body positioning happening. And again, we've got that idea of contrapposto here, especially in the figure second from the right in the center. You can see that all of the weight is on one of her legs and one of her knees is very clearly bent. So again, really incredibly beautiful idea of contrapposto back. Incredible detailing on the fabric. Now, Gothic architecture is really where it's at when we talk about art. It is the crowning glory. It is the most amazing aspect, I think, of Gothic anything that is out there. And really, when we're talking about Gothic architecture, we're talking about cathedrals. There were two engineering breakthroughs. Those were ribbed vaults and flying buttresses. Yes, vaults are back. It's not just a barrel vault or a groin vault. We now have ribbed vaults to help us create big open spaces without a lot of interior supports. So this is an example of ribbed vaulting. It is incredibly detailed and beautiful and really does an amazing job at distributing the weight out. There are lots of different styles of ribbed vaults. This one in particular is in St. Giles Cathedral in Scotland. I took this picture, so I know exactly how gorgeous this is. And I can tell you right now that these vaults are that vivid blue. I did not play with something in Photoshop. This is how it really is when you look up, and it is absolutely awe-inspiring. And then one of the most beautiful ribbed vaults I think that exists anywhere is the Sainte-Chapelle in France. These beautiful deep blue interior parts that are covered with tiny fleur-de-lis, which are incredibly popular in France as an artistic style. Really gorgeous. It almost looks like the night sky scattered with stars. So the flying buttresses are the other architectural engineering breakthrough that they had. And this distributed the weight of the walls and kept the weight outwards as opposed to inwards. If the flying buttresses here didn't exist and they're sort of like arched things that are kind of coming off the walls would actually collapse inward. And, walls collapsing inward on church patrons is a really bad thing. You can also see them here on the Saint Pierre in Chartres, France. Ribbed vaults can look in a whole lot of different ways, but they are incredibly important in Gothic architecture to allow these very open, immense inner spaces. We even have ribbed vaults here. Flying buttresses here in the United States. So this is the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. Now, lest you think that this was created at the founding of our country, it was not. This was created and finished like in 1992. So this is absolutely something that we are still using today, this idea of ribbed vaulting and flying buttresses. So here's a detail of the flying buttresses on the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. So again, you guys know, we here in America especially love to just steal our architectural and art ideas from other parts of the world and, make them our own. So the height was really, really important in Gothic cathedrals, and they were really trying to evoke this idea of heaven. So you have these tall, open inner spaces, and you, as someone who was, not worldly, you would walk into this space and you would see the beautiful light and this open space, and you would feel inspired to pray to God. So here's the Chartres Cathedral. So you can see how open and beautiful and airy it is. This was new. And if you take a look here, the people towards the bottom, those are actually people. You can really get an idea for the sense of scale that is happening here. And this is the Leon Cathedral. Again, incredibly beautiful. Notice the ribbed vaulting at the top. The Lincoln Cathedral in the UK, again, ribbed vaulting at the top, this beautiful, long, open central sort of area with lots of light flooding in. So we've talked about ribbed vaulting, we've talked about flying buttresses, but really, Gothic architecture is all about the stained glass. And you need the flying buttresses and you need the ribbed vaulting in order to have this amazing amount of beautiful stained glass that exists in Gothic architecture. So it does a couple of things. It provides this beautiful, richly colored light, but it also serves as a vehicle for religious narrative. Again, people can't read. We have to tell them their pictures and stories, just like we do with little kids. So this is what's called a rose window, and this is in the Chartres Cathedral in France. Again, it is this beautiful round central window. It is very common to have a Gothic cathedral with a rose window. In fact, you'll rarely find a Gothic cathedral without a rose window. And they have all sorts of beautiful different patterns. Here's another one. This is in Strasbourg. So again, you can see it's a different pattern. It has repeating motifs. Often they have some sort of floral connotation to it. And then I think the most beautiful of all of the Gothic cathedrals is the Sainte-Chapelle in France. I mean, just look at that light. Isn't that just absolutely fantastic? You can really see like this beautiful purple and blue and red light flood this space. It's just phenomenal. And you can see that beautiful blue of the ribbed vaulting at the top with the tiny gold fleur-de-lis. I mean, come on. How could you not want to go there? I want to go there. It just looks absolutely fantastic. and incredibly detailed, and that light is just beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking about it. No, I'm not. It's so gorgeous. Okay, so that's it for our Gothic. Really heavy on the architecture this time because that was incredibly important. If you have any questions, please let me know, or you want to talk more about the Sainte-Chapelle, you know I could talk about this forever.